And you're welcome back to part 2 of Live at 3. Now, you know, from time to time in the past, we've featured the work of small, new Irish companies. Some of them operating from a lock-up, a small garage or something like that. Well, today we're doing something just a little different. We're looking at a company that started very small a good few years ago, and then 2 or 3 years back took the quantum leap into the big new factory. The company is Carbery Plastics Limited from Clonakilty in County Cork, and we're pleased to welcome Dan O'Connell, their sales and marketing manager. And first of all, Carbery Plastics, obviously it's plastics, and I am surrounded by your products, bins, drums, and the devil knows what. Just tell me, Dan, what did you start making?
We started making the plastic oil tanks, Derek, about 13 years ago, and it was quite successful.
You obviously had to do your research on that.
We had. Obviously from our research, we found there was a great need for the replacement of the old steel tanks, and plastic was the obvious choice, and it was quite an open market.
Sure. So you started making these tanks. Now, you've got a round one here. What's the difference now? This one holds, it says 240 gallons.
That's correct.
You make a bigger one than that?
We make a bigger one than that. We can make one for 300 gallons, that holds 300 gallons, and we make one that holds 360 gallons, and finally 550 gallons. And if you want to talk metric litres, 2,500 litres is the largest one.
All right, but for domestic purposes, this would be the sort of one.
Be the standard.
How much would a tank like that cost?
A tank like that would retail roughly about £150.
Right.
£100.
Now, the square one, I'm going to say, what's the difference? Obviously, one is round and one is square, but what are the practical applications between the round and the square?
Well, the application straight away of the square, Derek, is a space saver. If you have a lot of space,
sure,
it can go up against a wall. And also, it's only 2 foot 3 inches wide. It could come through a doorway, the front door of a house, if you didn't have an access to the back.
Oh, of course, even the narrow passageway up the side of a house.
Yes.
Yes. So these are the products that you started off making.
That's right. The oil tanks are the core business.
Right. And obviously proved very successful.
Proved very successful.
You have a large chunk of the market?
We have a large chunk of the market at present. Yes.
Any idea exactly what percentage?
Well, it's hard to put a figure on it straight away. Possibly 50%.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Could be a time.
You diversify then into other products. Now, did the other products come before or after the move to the new factory?
They came after the move to the new factory.
All right, and a fairly courageous move, I would have thought.
It was. We moved from a quite modest 7,000 square feet to a rather larger 60,000 square feet in the town of Clonakilty itself.
And just look at it there, a splendid, splendid factory. Let me understand, you're not a wholly owned subsidiary of Schmettler Fink International of Liechtenstein or anything like that, no?
No, Derek, we're a wholly owned Irish company.
This is an Irish enterprise that started from nothing.
It started from nothing.
13 years ago.
13 years ago.
And now is in that factory. These bins, now these are the wheelie bin. And we've seen them, pubs use an awful lot of these, and indeed a lot of domestic users now have them. And there's a little bar. Some refuse collection vans have special equipment.
That's right. In certain areas, as we're progressing with the promotion of the wheelie bin, the councils have fitted special lifting devices that automatically lift these bins and dump them in, so the refuse men don't have to lift them anymore.
Goodness
but gracious. That's an ongoing process.
Sure. And these come, as I say, in a number of sizes. There's a big one here, which I imagine the catering trade would favour.
That's correct.
And would make a fine swill bin or whatever. Just price these wheelie bins out for me.
Roughly again, the standard wheelie bin, which takes about 3 black plastic bags full of rubbish to give a housewife an idea of what the size, that's about £60.
Yes,
and the large one is about £75, retailing at.
OK, I just want to move this out again because you have a rather nice item here. And this is a clever thing. First of all, this fuel bunker, is it an Irish design or did you nick it?
No, we didn't, Derry. This is purely an Irish design. OK, and if I lift that up there, I only learned how to use this a moment or two ago, right? You're very adept at it, I must say.
It's put on a plinth, right? And I stick my shovel in here to load up the coal scuttle or whatever.
That's right.
Right? And then when the coal man is delivering, dumps from shoulder height into this.
That's correct.
All right. What will that hold?
That will hold 5 bags of fuel. Coal, shall we say.
Yeah, that's about a quarter ton.
The unique feature, again, as you pointed out there, is that the person taking out the coal doesn't have to kneel down as heretofore with the old coal bunker.
It's easier on the
back, waist level, yes.
Yeah. What will that bunker cost?
It'll cost about £75 in retail.
At what point did you guys decide that it's time for the move?
Well, the company had become very successful, particularly with the oil tanks, the core business. And we found we needed to expand. Our sales were increasing, so we had to make this big move to the factory.
All right.
in the middle of
Do you
town.
have your own training scheme in-house?
We do have our own training scheme in-house, yes. We have a very good staff, actually, Derek, as well.
And some very modern equipment. Now, all of that costs an awful lot of money. And the message from Carbery Plastics would seem to be, get the enterprise on a really solid footing before you go in for the massive expansion.
That's right. Of course, we were grant aided by the IDA, Derek, but we had to have a very good track record before we were considered for the expansion.
Sure.
Yes. And a lot of it, I must stress this point, it's the whole staff in the factory work as a team. There's no great denominations between management and staff. We have a very good working relationship, never have any problems, and fellas repairs where they're back in and work all hours, no problem.
Well, I mean, good jobs are hard to find. How many people did you say you now have?
We have roughly about 35 at present, and we hope to expand.
By how much?
Well, we could have another 10 possibly in the short term.
If you were giving advice to somebody now with a small, let's say, garage enterprise, which is successful, obviously not a competitor now,
Yeah.
but if you were giving them advice as to coming up with a development plan, what would that advice be?
Well, Derek, you'll obviously have to lay out your plans very carefully on paper. Have your full financial strategy made out of exactly where you're going, have possibly a 5-year plan. Otherwise, you can't fly in the dark in this game.
I suspect quite a number of small businesses have actually been put down by being over-ambitious and have moved into premises and with plant and equipment that they couldn't fund.
That's correct, Eric. That's the thing.
And that's not the mistake that you've made.
Hopefully not. We seem to be motoring fairly well.
Listen, if you like their products, and they are Irish products, and they appear to us to be very soundly constructed indeed, and you want to contact Carbery Plastics, this is the address. Carbery Plastics Limited, Clogheen, Clonakilty, County Cork. They have a telephone number, of course. 023 is the code. 33531 is the phone number. And every good entrepreneur nowadays has a fax number for exchanging crossword puzzles or whatever. It's 023 is the code. 34368. 34368. And that's Carbery Plastics. And a lot of people are predicting a bright future for that company. Now, to a man who's predicting all sorts of things for all sorts of people. Here's Thelma with